Assalamu alaikum students. I hope everyone will be fine at home. Previously we talked about the structure of ATP and its role as the energy currency molecule of the cell, and we said that there are certain properties an ATP molecule has which enable it to perform its function superbly. Like it is a small molecule, it is water soluble, and because of these two properties ATP molecule can be transported very easily around the cell. Then it is highly unstable, and because of which it's quickly hydrolyzed whenever energy is required. So ATP is going to be hydrolyzed into ADP, and with the removal of one phosphate group and giving the energy at the same time, which is going to be used in the various reactions required at that time inside the cell. Now there was one question asked by one of the students in about the previous lesson, that there was one point there that some of the cells can only use glucose, and example which was given over there, that was of the brain cells. Let me explain, though that's not though its detail is not in the syllabus, but let me just tell you about it so that it's clear to you. Actually, the main respiratory substrate for aerobic respiration always remains the glucose, depending on the conditions. For example, if glucose concentration decreases because of certain reasons, then you see some of the cells, they can go for alternate respiratory substrate. For example, fatty acids can be used in the process of respiration, then glycerol can also be used, amino acids can also be used, right? But there are some cells which are very specific. For example, brain cells, they always prefer to use the glucose, and you see it's only in case of much prolonged starvation, when when enough glucose is not available to the brain cells, then they go for the alternate, and they start respiring ketones, which we know that which ketones are produced as a result of breakdown of fatty acids. Okay, so that's why we say that brain cells can only use they are one of those cells which can only use glucose, but in certain conditions. For example, as I said earlier, it's a prolonged starvation, and that obviously that is a condition which does not happen on and off. It's very rare. But if we talk about more specific cells, then we can take the example of red blood cells. Now you see, in case of red blood cells, only glucose is used as a respiratory substrate always. Why is it so? Why always? Why not going for some other alternates? Because if you know that mitochondria, they are not present in case of red blood cells. In mature red blood cells, mitochondria. When we talk about mature red blood cells, they lack mitochondria. Now, of course, the process of cellular aerobic respiration, it takes place inside the mitochondria. And on that day, we discussed that the process of respiration occurs in 4 stages. It was glycolysis, link reaction, Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. Among all these 4 stages, the first stage, glycolysis, it doesn't take place inside the mitochondria, rather it takes place inside the cytoplasm of the cell. Right? Now, rest of the 3 stages, link reaction, Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation, they occur inside the mitochondria. Now, when we are talking about red blood cells, if mitochondria are not present, then how the process of respiration can take place? Actually, it's only glycolysis which takes place inside the red blood cell, because if we know that glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell, and for that mitochondria are not required. So that's why it's only glycolysis which takes place in case of red blood cell. And one more thing you should remember, that there are 2 types of respiration, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, of course, oxygen is required, and on the other hand, when oxygen is not available, then anaerobic respiration takes place. In anaerobic respiration, once again, actually glycolysis takes place, which is a modified glycolysis. So actually red blood cells, they respire anaerobically. and only the very first stage of respiration, which does not require mitochondria, that takes place inside the red blood cells. So, you must remember this thing as always, that for glycolysis, the starting respiratory substrate, that is always glucose, none other than glucose. So that's why we say that red blood cells, they are very very specific about the usage of the respiratory substrate. It's only glucose which can be used by red blood cells for the process of respiration, which is actually anaerobic respiration taking place inside the red blood cells. Now moving on, today we are going to, before going into the detail of the process of respiration, we are going to look at the structure of mitochondria inside which the process of respiration takes place. You must have studied the structure of mitochondria in AS as well, but over here we are going to discuss it in more detail. First of all, if we look at generally the structure of mitochondria, what does come in our mind? How many mitochondria are present per cell? What is the shape of the mitochondria? And what is the size of the mitochondria? If we look at their shape, they may be rod shaped, they may be filamentous, they may be sausage shaped, and basically there is one technique which is called as time lapse photography. Time lapse photography. Time lapse photography is actually a technique in which the frequency at which a film is captured, that is much more than the frequency at which that film is viewed. So basically when we are going to view that film at a normal speed, time seems to be moving faster. This is called as time lapse photography. So according to the time lapse, when the mitochondria, they were observed with the help of this technique, it was observed that they are not the rigid structure and they can change their shape, right? So time lapse photography shows that they are not rigid structures. So when we say they are not rigid structures, it means they can change their shape. Now next is size. As far as the size of mitochondria is concerned, they are usually 0.5 to 1 micrometer in diameter, right? Next comes their number. As far as the number of mitochondria is concerned, number of mitochondria varies from cell to cell, and number of mitochondria depends on the activity of the cell. More active is the cell, more is the number of mitochondria. Less active is the cell, less number of mitochondria are present in that cell. For example, we can take the example, number depends on activity of cell. More active a cell is, more mitochondria. For example, we can take the example of mammalian liver cells. we know that liver cells are very one of the very active cells, because a number of functions are going to be are performed by the liver cells, right? So because of its much more activity, they have more number of mitochondria. It is estimated that liver cells, they contain about 1000 to 10,000 mitochondria, and that makes up about the 20% of total cell volume. 20% of cell volume. So these were the very general point about mitochondria, their number, their shape, and their size. Now we come to the inner structure of the detailed structure of mitochondria. Each mitochondrion is surrounded by an envelope. Whenever we use the terminology of envelope, it means it consists of two membranes, right? So there is an outer membrane and there is an inner membrane. So this is inner mitochondrial membrane, and this is outer mitochondrial membrane. And both of these two membranes, they collectively form what is called as mitochondrial envelope, right? Both the membranes, they differ in composition and their properties. Like if we talk about the outer membrane is more permeable to small molecules as compared to the inner membrane, which is comparatively lesser permeable to those molecules. So there is a difference in the composition, and of course when the composition is different, there is a difference in the properties or the functions as well of the two membranes. Now if you see, the outer membrane is smooth. This is a smooth membrane, while inner membrane is not smooth. If it is not smooth, how does it look like? Actually, it gets folded to form finger-like structures, which are called as cristae. So it's just like this. Right? So inner membrane is not smooth, rather it is folded, and it gets folded to form finger-like structures, and these finger-like structures, they are called as cristae. Singular is crista, while the plural is cristae. Now you see, these cristae, obviously they increase the surface area of the inner membrane, right? And that plays a very important role. For its function to perform, because if we know that on the inner mitochondrial membrane, actually the process of oxidative, the last stage of respiration, which is oxidative phosphorylation or electron transport chain, that takes place on the inner mitochondrial membrane, right? So basically the presence of the cristae, that increase the surface area of the inner mitochondrial membrane. Then if we see these cristae, they are further, they are having small spheres attached to them with the help of small stalks, right? The size of this okay, so these small stalks, actually these small spheres, it's just like this. If I draw it a bit larger, it's like this. Like this is inner membrane, and this inner membrane is studded with these small spheres. The size of this, they are usually 9 nanometer in diameter. Okay, and actually these small spheres, they are attached to the inner mitochondrial membrane with the help of these short stalks. Okay, this is a stalk. Actually these, what are these spheres? They are ATP synthase. Now we can understand what we can conclude from the word ATP synthase. This is an enzyme which is concerned with the synthesis of ATP. Of course, ATP synthesis takes place from ADP and inorganic phosphate, right? If we remember that reaction, ADP plus inorganic phosphate, that leads to the formation of ATP, right? So the enzyme which catalyzes this reaction, that is ATP synthase. So actually these spheres, these small spheres which are attached to the inner mitochondrial membrane, they are the ATP synthase, and this ATP synthase is the enzyme which is involved in the formation of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. This space which is present between inner and outer mitochondrial membrane, that has got usually a lower pH as compared to this ground substance which is present inside the mitochondria. You know, this ground substance inside the mitochondria, that is called as matrix of mitochondria. So this intermembranal space, the space which is present between the inner and the outer mitochondrial membrane, that has usually lower pH as compared to the matrix of the mitochondria, and that is because of the transport of protons from the matrix into the space, right? And obviously when more and more protons, they are transported into this intermembranal space, the more lower gets its pH, right? So then we talk about obviously now these cristae, they have got all those proteins which are required, all those enzymes which are required for the process of oxidative phosphorylation. Now we come to the matrix. Matrix, actually there are two important processes of respiration, link reaction and Krebs cycle, which takes place inside the matrix of mitochondria. So matrix of mitochondria has got all those necessary materials, for example the enzymes which are required for the process, for these two processes, they are also present in the matrix. Apart from that, it also contains inorganic ions, small organic molecules, etc. So the process of oxidative phosphorylation, it takes place on the cristae, obviously the inner mitochondrial membrane, and the process of link reaction and Krebs cycle, it takes place inside the matrix. Now what is more present inside the matrix? You can see, we know that there are groups of small ribosomes which are called as 70S ribosomes. They are present inside mitochondria, inside the matrix of mitochondria. And then there are identical copies, there are many identical copies of DNA, circular loop of DNA which is present there. So basically, and we know that both of these two properties, they are present only in mitochondria and chloroplast. Other than that, these are not present in none of other organelles. And we know that there is a very famous theory about it, which is called as endo-symbiont theory. And this theory states that endo means inside, symbiont word comes from a relationship which is called as symbiosis. Symbiosis is that kind of relationship where where the host and the there is a host cell and obviously the other, which is the invader, both live in harmony with each other and they are going to benefit from each other. Such type of relationship is called as symbiotic relationship or symbiosis. So basically this theory states that once upon a time, because actually we see 70s ribosomes and the circular DNA, both of these, they are the features of the prokaryotic cells, while these are the organelles which are present in the eukaryotic cells. So this theory states that once upon a time, these mitochondria and chloroplast, both they were bacteria, and somehow they invaded some eukaryotic cells. They developed a symbiotic relationship with those eukaryotic cells, and with the passage of time they became a permanent part of those eukaryotic cells as organelles, right? But now if we think about it, that these mitochondria and chloroplasts, they cannot survive outside their eukaryotic cells. Okay, so this is the endosymbiont theory. This was all about the structure of mitochondria, right? So students, as far as the first thing, you are going to have a worksheet with this as well. Kindly that worksheet is in Word. Kindly fill it in the Word, and then send it back to me on my email ID. And one more thing, previously only 3 students have sent me the previous worksheet. I request you once again to send me that worksheet again, so that I can check it as well along with this worksheet, right? There are going to be some some questions which are which are sort of unseen question in this. In some parts of this question they might be unseen, but obviously more use of common sense is involved while attempting those parts. So I hope you can do it easily. Anyhow, whatever comes in your mind, you just answer that. It's not going to be marked or something like that, right? So but please don't consult any paper for that. I'm sure about it. So this much is all enough for today. In the second lesson we are going to start with the process of respiration. And I request you at the end, all of you, pray for my health, please. I am in isolation for about a month, so I hope to come back to school very soon. For that I need to recover very quickly, and for that I need your prayers as well. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.